we are. Here we are. Here we are. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. We were having technical difficulties. We were having technical difficulties. Larry is back in the booth. I want to say to you all, there's no intro music or something. We were having technical difficulties, and that's what I was trying to convey to everybody. But I want to say to you all before I bring Larry Johnson in, because he's in the booth, I want to take the time out right now to give my condolences to the family of Scott Bennett. Scott Bennett is a real one. He helped me get my channel reinstated after it was deleted, not suspended, deleted over conversations he and I had on YouTube twice. And he and I have his personal number. He and I talked many, many hours, many, many days. And according to RT and according to other reports, the former U.S. Army psychological warfare officer and political analyst has died of pancreatic cancer. And I want to send my condolences out to Scott. And I know Larry won't mind for a second. I want to put this on the screen just in memory of Scott. I want to put like a 2-minute thing up here for Scott. And give me 1 second, everybody. Here we are.
Instead of holding him up as a witness to a lot of this deep state. I interviewed Birkenfeld, and I got WikiLeaks cable, Clinton and the State Department directly to money that was being laundered through this law firm Covington and Burling and Union Bank of Switzerland into ISIS operations in Syria, in Libya. General Flynn, Michael Flynn, knew about it. That's why he wrote his memo in 2012, because we had provided the material in August of 2012 to James Mattis, U.S. Central Command, Michael Flynn, Defense Intelligence Agency, other military officers at the Pentagon, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Ray Odierno, General Martin Dempsey, the Senate and the Congress, the House Armed Services Committee, Intelligence Committee, Banking Committee, Foreign Intelligence Committee, Foreign Affairs Committee. I was pounced on by people like Senator Bill Nelson, who wrote to Senator Dianne Feinstein, how is this Scott Bennett getting this material? And I mean, there's a long saga of the cover-up, but this directly connects to the Obama, Biden, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder cabal, and they were financing terrorism through Swiss banks, hundreds of millions of dollars, and other things. And a lot of that also went to the biological chemical weapons labs that they were installing.
So now I'll bring Larry Johnson in. How's it going, my friend?
I am well. I just woke up this morning, and one of my readers made a note about Scott's death. I was shocked by it because, I was in contact with him 4 weeks ago, and then he sort of went radio silent on November 1st. They sent him a note saying, "Hey, we haven't heard from you. What's up?" Never got back to me. I didn't realize he was sick. I was in St. Petersburg with him in June. In fact, I'm going to put in our. Let me see if that'll copy. I tried to copy into the. I was trying to send you a copy of the photograph with Scott, me, and Pepe Escobar at St. Petersburg. So Scott was he was a personality and a character, that's for sure. And not very bright individual. Really a tragic early death. I didn't even realize he was sick.
Yeah, neither did I.
I guess he kept it to himself.
Yeah. Well, on that note, as we turn to the news, my friend, what in the hell is on Joe Biden and these lunatics in Washington, D.C.'s mind by striking Russian territory?
Well, I think you need to step back and look at it in a broader context. We now know that Joe Biden and his team realized before the June debate with Donald Trump that he was going to lose. Mm-hmm. I mean, they knew that. They said their internal polling showed that he was just going to get shellacked. So I think they started prepping back then for what we're seeing unfold now. Number one, the attack of missiles, the so-called long-range attack of missiles, those were sent last April. Those didn't show up last week or last month. They'd been there for 7 months. So let's not pretend that that's some new arrival. And let's deal with the language. They're not long-range missiles. According to the Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty, the INF Treaty, signed by Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev on December 8th, 1987, almost 40 years ago. That specifies that the two types of missiles that fall under that are the short, medium-range missiles. They travel a minimum of 300 miles up to 600 miles. And then the intermediate range missiles, which go from 600 miles to 3,400, 3,500 miles. So the ATACMS don't even fall, they're not long range. The Storm Shadow Scout missiles, those are medium range. Then October 8th, we get this manufactured story about North Koreans in Ukraine. And that becomes then the excuse for the use of these so-called long-range attack of missiles. So, I think this was planned all along as an effort to try to escalate the conflict with Russia, create more chaos in Ukraine, so that you just hand Trump a steaming pile of manure when he comes into office. But not only that, it wasn't just on the Ukraine front. When the FBI came out on November 8th with this indictment claiming that there was this alleged plot to assassinate Trump, and I think we talked about this last time I was on your show. Again, that thing's a construct of the FBI and the intelligence and the CIA to create a narrative that Iran represents a major threat that we have to go after militarily. All of these efforts to create destabilized military situations in Ukraine, in the Middle East, I think are part of an effort by the deep state to, if possible, derail the Trump presidency, because they cannot risk Trump coming into office and being effective. There are too many of them at CIA, at DOD, at DOJ, at FBI that are likely to be indicted or court-martialed. And the dirt on them is there. And there are enough whistleblowers inside to blow them up. So that's what's going on. This was a deliberate provocation by the United States, and Russia is ready for it, and Russia has put everybody on notice. The short acronym is FAFO, F-A-F-O.
Yes, sir.
F around, find out. And they found out a lot 2 days ago now. With that hypersonic MARV. It's a MARV, M-A-R-V, not a MERV. MERV stands for Multiple Independently Targeted Reentry Vehicles, MIRV. That means it's in the capsule on top of a missile. You got other miniature warheads. And when the capsule opens, those warheads are independently targeted. MARV means multiple maneuverable. These are maneuverable reentry vehicles. So the missile carries them, but man, once they're deployed, they can actually fly on their own and avoid incoming. But to make matters worse, they're also hypersonic. And these are traveling at speeds in excess of 10,000 Mach 10. So they're extremely fast, which is about 8,000, 9,000 miles per hour. It's just enormously fast. So Russia unveiling that said, look, We had entered into a treaty back in 1987 with the United States not to produce these intermediate range nuclear missiles. And the United States, under Donald Trump, broke that treaty, walked away from it, said, nope, no longer. We're not going to follow it. Russia said, okay, if you ain't going to follow it, neither are we. We'll make our own. And so they're the first ones out of the box with the intermediate range missile. Now all of Europe is having a heart attack because they now realize Russia's got a missile that it can hit every single one of their cities with if they want to, every single military base if they want to. And there's not a damn thing they can do to stop it. Not one. So that's the meaning of this.
I want to play a little clip, and I want to play. It has a Dmitry Medvedev quote above it, so it's about 8 seconds.
Okay,
here it is. So that reminded me of when Iran struck Israel and how those missiles were coming in, and it seemed like they were separating from the missile and they were just dropping down on the military bases. Do you think that this will make Washington and London and Paris pause for a minute? Because
yes,
it seems like that. But Biden said that he's going to still put those banned landmines, give them to Ukraine and all. You know, when they say they're going to do it, they've already transported the stuff to Ukraine. So do you think that they will still go through with this when Russia, when press said that from this point on, any escalation will be met head on with a responding or corresponding escalation?
Yeah. No, listen, if they got a brain in their head, they should understand right now that they've crossed the line. We're into new territory here. This is a weapon that nobody has. This differs from what the Iranians did. If you look at the Iranian missiles, they were traveling much slower. They were traveling in a diagonal. These were coming straight down.
Yeah,
they're coming down at 90 degrees. So although the Iranians did demonstrate that they do have some maneuverable missiles as well that are traveling very fast, but they did nothing like the speed that the Russians demonstrated the other day. And what people don't understand, you saw those things hit the ground, but people say, well, where's the explosion?
Underneath the ground.
They're hitting so fast, they're going so deep into the ground, it's in the ground. You're not seeing it, but it's wreaking this enormous damage underneath the ground. There was a couple of videos that would show the sound. And the ones that recorded were like, oh my God, we've never heard a noise like that. So this is, Russia introduced something new. And Putin was very upfront about it. He said, look, if you hit us, then we're going to tell you what target we're going to hit. We'll let you know in advance because there's nothing you can do to stop us. It's like, do you remember that movie, Billy Jack?
Billy Jack. I can't recall that.
With Tom Coughlin in the 1970s. So Billy Jack was this guy who's like half gringo, half Indian, and was in one of these small towns out west, and all the wicked white men were beating up on the Indians all the time. And so Billy Jack comes out and confronts the sheriff and standing there, and the sheriff said, yeah, what are you going to do? And Billy Jack was a karate guy, taekwondo. And Billy Jack sits down, takes off his boots, takes off his socks, standing there in the grass on his bare feet. And he goes, I'm going to take this right foot here, and I'm going to put it up there on the right side of your face. And there's not a damn thing. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And the sheriff goes, yeah, really. And Billy Jack goes, yeah, really. And the next thing you know, it's like, bam! He just kicks his head off. That's what Vladimir Putin, it was his Billy Jack moment the other day. Look it up on YouTube. You'll find the scene. It's hilarious. But, Putin said, look, we're going to take this missile here with all these MARVs, I wish you would have said something like, "I'd like to introduce you to our marvelous weapon, our marvelous new weapon." You know, but it's multiple. It's a maneuverable reentry vehicle. That's what it is. Multiple maneuverable reentry vehicle. And he just said, "Hey, we'll give you time to clear out your population, clear out the civilians." It's like going up to his own, "Hey, women and children, go to the lifeboats, get out, get away while you can. Anybody left on board is going to be shot, a victim."
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he wasn't playing. And you got some just certifiable imbeciles in the West, like this General Jack Keane.
Oh
"Oh,
yeah.
Putin doesn't move it.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't mean it. He ain't gonna do nothing." Like I said, man, FAFO.
Well, Larry, what is there anything to some rumors saying that these hypersonic missiles targeted NATO facilities along with Ukrainian facilities, and that's why they penetrated deep in the ground?
No, well, no. This was a massive Soviet era industrial facility. So it's on the scale of like Mariupol, if you remember the Azov factory. You know,
That was
huge.
huge.
Covered lots of territory, lots of buildings, lots of underground facilities, and you know, the Russians didn't completely destroy it, but they destroyed enough of it that it's, they certainly disrupted the work that was being done there, and they didn't use a nuclear device. They're showing that, hey, if we could have armed these with nukes, and then there'd be nothing left. So the Russians, the nukes for the Russians are a last resort. But this is what's alarming. You had this Rear Admiral Buchanan. He was on. Scott Ritter talked about it. Judge Napolitano read about it. Read his statements. Doug McGregor was exercised about it, claiming that, oh yeah, the United States is ready to fight a nuclear war and win a nuclear war with Russia. Shouldn't be saying that in public.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if they believe that in private, that's one thing. Saying it in public, all that does is it reinforces the Russians. They've got to take that as a serious threat, which is why Russia's nuclear forces now are on the highest alert they've ever been since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Americans need to take note of that. Highest since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Secondly, the Russians are putting out footage of deployable nuclear shelters that are mobile nuclear shelters that are being developed to protect people in the event of a nuclear blast and fallout. They're doing that. They actually expect and anticipate that they are going to have a nuclear fight with the United States. And the United States is not ready or prepared for any such thing. Not at all. We keep talking about it, and it's gonna bite us in the ass. That's for sure.
Well, when we look at those missiles those hypersonic missiles that were going Mach 10, I believe, and NATO bragging
at least Mach 10.
Oh my God. At least they were going super fast. I know that much. And it seemed like they were just dropping out of the sky just as fast. But this is what a NATO military official had to say about the Ukrainian and Russian conflict.
I'm absolutely sure if the Russians did not have nuclear weapons, we would have been in Ukraine, kicking them out. We would have. But they have nuclear weapons, so it's not the same as in Afghanistan.
So do you think that when he says that, in reality, when we look at the situation and we see that prior to the special military operation, that Ukraine, by NATO's own words, was the most skilled, highly equipped, and most advanced armed forces in Europe outside of Russia, and Russia has destroyed them 3 times over, going on to the 4th time. How in the world could he say that with a straight face to the world and say that NATO would have gone in there and defeated and kicked Russia out of there, especially after Russia exhibited those hypersonic missiles that they exhibited the other day? that didn't need nuclear weapons.
You know, if I was 6'8" and black and played for the New York Knicks, I could have been an NBA All-Star. You know, grandmama. Yeah, that's what he's saying. You know, if Russia didn't have those nuclear weapons, yeah, and if frogs had wings, they wouldn't bump their ass when they jump. What is with if? Yeah, come on, let's deal with reality, folks. You know, I'm 5'9". I was an okay athlete, but you know, not NBA qualified. Nowhere near it. You know, yeah, I do have the white men can't jump syndrome. Okay.
Hey, Larry,
But-
it seems like to me that not only are the political establishment detached from reality and still they are played with hubris, imperial hubris, but now it seems like the military brass is like that for them to allow for these missiles to be transferred, well, not transferred to Ukraine, but to be fired by Western forces into Russia, knowing that this could have precipitated a nuclear strike by Russia.
Well, it's consistent with what has happened in the West intellectually across the board, where, you know, for example, the rise of the transgender myth, where you've got lots of people who are educated, they've gone to college, you know, they've got degrees, and they sit there and they say, oh yeah, biological men can actually be women, and you know, no, they can't, but they enter into this fantasy, this delusion. So why are we surprised that when it comes to trying to address what's happening on the ground in Ukraine, they opt for delusional nonsense? It's the same thing. It's like a mental illness that seizes them. They refuse to address the facts, and the facts are very clear. Russia is winning decisively. Ukraine is losing decisively, and NATO can't do anything about it, including if NATO tomorrow declared war on Russia, NATO would be destroyed within 48 hours. And they couldn't do anything to stop it because their air defense systems can't stop these hypersonic missiles that Russia has deployed and used. And that's what Vladimir Putin did 2 days ago, what several of the military folks wanted Truman to do before he dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. They wanted to say, look, let's call the Japanese up. Let's demonstrate what this bomb could do. And Truman turned it down, apparently fearful that, well, if he did that and it didn't go off, it just prolonged the war, which, you know, can make the case that's a legitimate fear. Well, apparently Putin didn't have that fear. So they called and said, hey, we're sending you a package, but don't blink. It's going to pass you before you know what to do. And they did.
And this is what Putin had to say, and I want your response after this, because it seems like the West continues to, if Putin gives them an inch, they try to take 2 miles. So I want you to listen to what he had to say right here.
The further course of action will be determined based on the threats to the security of the Russian Federation. We believe that we have the right to use our weapons against military facilities of countries who allow their weapons to be used against ours. And in case of an escalation, we will act as decisively in a mirror fashion. The ruling elites of the countries are nurturing plans to use their military contingents against Russia should be warned.
Yeah.
So he is saying in words, and I remember hearing the foreign ministry spokeswoman, I can't pronounce her name, Zarakova, whatever.
Khodorova.
Yeah.
Zakharova.
Zakharova. Yeah, I remember her saying something to the likes that Russia would mirror the response. So what Putin was saying was, if you allow our military bases to go under attack, now that we will strike your military bases now.
Right. He made it very clear. Russia is not Israel.
Yes.
Russia is not the United States. I raise Israel and the United States as two countries that will routinely kill civilians
Yes. Yes, sir.
in the name of fighting terrorism. Just we're fighting terrorism, and they're using them as human shields. The Russians don't play that game. They've been very firm about trying to minimize civilian casualties, which is one of the reasons they haven't engaged with leveling cities with the bombs that they do, the bombs and missiles they could employ, simply because sometimes there are still civilians in there, and they're gonna limit those casualties. And so you got to pay attention. He said exactly what they're gonna do. If you attack our radars, we're going to attack your radars. If you attack our command headquarters, we're going to attack your command headquarters. He made it very clear. It's going to be tit for tat. And his point was, we can stop you. We do have air defense systems that work. We can stop most of your attacks. You won't be able to stop us. So if you want to play, just understand that's the rules of the game. You can't stop us.
What do you think that'll stop the strikes from the HIMARS and the Storm Shadows now that he demonstrated Russia's resolve and Russia's capabilities? Because I think that shocked NATO to the core when they saw what happened.
It shocked some, but not others. And so what I really worry about is you've got people in leadership positions that genuinely believe the Russians are bluffing and we can do whatever we want and they're not going to punch back. It's like the bully keeps picking on this one kid, and the kid does, just lets it pass. And then, the day comes, the bully shows up, and the kid will pull a gun and shoot him. That day's coming. I did that with a bully when I was growing up. I had a kid on my street that bigger than me, used to pick on me. And so one day I took my BB gun outside and I packed it with this little gravel. I called him over, hey, and he came over, yeah, what do you want? I shot him. Man, peppered his arm. You know what? Yeah, I got in big trouble with my parents. I felt like I was, Steve McQueen on Devil's Island, imprisoned. I wasn't allowed to leave the room. Food, bread and water for several days. But you know what? That prick never bothered me again. So that's sort of that's where the Russians are now. They're going to they've essentially acknowledged they're at war with NATO, and they're going to treat it as a war. They will attack and counterattack. They will counterattack, but it will be proportional in response to the targets that are attacked inside Russia.
Well, I know time is of the essence because we have to go, but I want to ask you two questions on Israel and Iran. I was listening to the foreign minister of the Iranian Islamic Republic, and they said that True Promise 3 will happen. They will strike Israel in their own time, but it will be a massive response. That's what they were saying. Do you think so? And how long do you think it'll be?
I don't know. They've not consulted me. I've heard the words. I'm not big on making threats and then not following through. And if you're going to do something, why telegraph it? I can understand in Putin's case why he telegraphed it. All he telegraphed was, look, in the future, we're going to tell you where we're going to hit so that you can get your civilians out of the way so they don't get killed or wounded. And we're going to hit you and we're going to hurt you. We're going to teach you a lesson. That's not what Iran said. Oh, we're going to launch. It's going to be more devastating. Well, if you're going to do it, stop talking and do it. But because otherwise, and Israel's guilty of the same thing. You know, they talk tough about it and don't really deliver. So I would hope that we could get that war under control. I don't know why Iran has delayed its response up to this point. Perhaps it was delayed in terms of to make preparations to expect retaliation from Israel. The one thing this is not to put you on the spot, but what's the one thing in terms of games that Iran, and Russia have in common?
They make their opponents wait and worry over when the attack will take place or if they will attack.
Okay, but what sort of game is that like? What game are they playing? They playing checkers?
Chess. They're playing chess.
Chess. And why do they play chess? Because the Iranians invented chess, and the Russians mastered chess. Yeah. And so the essence of a chess game is, I don't worry. You know, I'm going to move my pawn, and so I've got to figure out what could you do in response. What kind of moves could you make? And then anticipating what move that you're going to make, then what will be my next move based upon the move that you made.
Right.
And then when I make my move, what move would you likely make in response to that move? It's really complex and complicated. But when you are culturally trained to think that way, that could explain one of the things that why Iran's delayed.
Yeah.
That they're thinking this through. Okay, if we do this, then we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and we'll follow through in this way or that way. You know, I think that may be what's going on. So.
Okay. All right. Well, Larry, thank you again for this hard-hitting show. Every time I ask, you come right through for me. I really, really appreciate it, man. Be safe and be blessed.
You didn't get my bill? I sent you a bill, dude.
Oh, hey, it was return to sender. It was return to sender.
Oh, you're gonna start singing Elvis to me. Return to sender.
It was return to sender. So, Larry, sorry. I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, brother. Hey, anytime. Glad you would find me worthwhile on your podcast.
Hey, be blessed. I'll talk to you later, Larry.
All right, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful podcast for truth anywhere on God's green earth. This is your black platform for education, elevation, and edification. I want to say this to you all before we go off there. Next week, we'll have Alex Craner on the platform, and we may have one or two other guests. We're trying to push together schedules, okay? So be on the lookout for that, but we're going to still have some hard-hitting things. And we got a premium channel member and Patreon stream coming up this weekend, so be prepared for that. I want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart to the depth of my soul. I want you also to do right by others, not because there's some financial gain to it or because other people are watching, but do right by others because it's the right thing to do, and know that even when no one else is watching, God Almighty is watching. I love you if you love truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hit the like button also and share. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. I'm out of here. Thank you all.